בוקר טוב. תודה לכל מי שהגיע כאן. Thank you for everybody who came over. אני אתחיל בכמה מילים באנגלית ואני אחזור לעברית. So thanks for all our visitors. Thanks Marissa and all distinguished speakers, as well as the APM groups who are here. I'm going to switch to Hebrew for a few words before introducing Marissa. אז אני מאוד שמח כאן לפתוח את האירוע הזה, כפי שאמרה טל, אירוע ראשון מסוגו בעולם. גוגל מאמינה בטלנט הישראלי, היא מחויבת לטלנט הישראלי, לעבוד עם המפתחים בארץ. יש לנו כאן מרכז שמאז האירוע האחרון של המפתחים שהיה לנו כאן גדל באופן משמעותי. היום אנחנו עם משרדים גם בתל אביב וחיפה ואנחנו גדלים. ספרו לחברים שלכם, מוליכים פרויקטים בתחומים של חיפוש, של אנליזת מידע, של אפליקציות, של תשתיות ועוד. אנחנו שמחים תמיד לעבוד עם המפתחים, וכאמור הטכנולוגיות בגוגל הן טכנולוגיות פתוחות. אנחנו רוצים לראות מפתחים שבאים ומחדשים, באים עם פיתוחים, וישראל היא אחד המקומות החדשניים בעולם, אחד המקומות שיש adoption מאוד נרחב לטכנולוגיות בכלל, ואנחנו רואים את זה בכרום בפרט. זה אחד הסיבות גם שהאירוע הזה מתחיל בישראל. יש לנו כאן, רואים הרבה מאוד פיתוחים חדשניים ושימושים חדשניים, גם בצד של המשתמש, גם בצד של המפתחים. ועם זאת, יש לנו יום עמוס, אז אנחנו נשמח כמובן להרבה אינטראקציה. ובזאת אני רוצה להזמין את הדוברת הראשית של היום. I'd like to introduce here Marissa Meyer, who is here visiting with a group of product managers. This is a second visit to Israel in the course of 3 years, which is another significant item to note. Marissa has been one of the first engineers in Google, and she's leading all its search products and user experience. So let me welcome Marissa, Vice President of Search Products and User Experience.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are so excited to be hosting our first ever Chrome DevFest here in Israel, in part because we have such a vibrant community of developers, but also because Israel is one of our fastest growing communities of Chrome users anywhere in the world. So we're really excited to be hosting today's event here. Right now, as Yossi said, I am traveling with a group of 25 associate product managers. And will the associates please, who are here visiting, please stand up? So. The associates here are from all over the world, from our Mountain View headquarters, New York, Beijing, Shanghai, and Zurich. And they're all part of a program we have, which is the Associate Product Manager Program. It's a 2-year program at Google for people right out of their bachelor's and master's. And they do 2 rotations through the company. And at the end of the first year, we do an international trip where we visit 4 different markets. And actually, Israel is our third, so we're going to go ahead to the slides. This is a picture of us in Japan just a week ago. So we've been to Tokyo and then Hong Kong, now here in Tel Aviv, and later this week we'll be visiting Zurich. But the idea for the trip is to learn about how Google products work with users and developers and advertisers in different markets, as well as learn a lot about the overall culture. So we think this is something that helps us build better products for Google and better products for the web overall, and we're really excited to be here today. I'm always really excited to be here in Israel. There's just an amazing energy here. And I met with Yossi, Matias, there's also Yossi Vardi. It's a lot of the people who are really, really welcoming to us here. It's really exciting to be here among all of the developers and startups. Because overall, we have found that Israel is really a great place to innovate. Yossi was pointing out to me this morning, as on our way here, that the Israel office is now just a little over 3 years old and has had an amazing amount of growth and spurred an amazing amount of innovation. And I just think that as I was researching my talk this morning, I came across some statistics, some of which you guys are probably familiar with, but I just wanted to cite some of them because I think it illustrates why Israel is such a wonderful place for Google to be and such a wonderful center for innovation. Israel is #1 among countries in terms of engineers and scientists per capita. So there's more engineers and scientists here on a per person basis than anywhere in the world. In the last 60 years, 9 Israelis have won Nobel Prizes. Israel is #2 in the world after the US in terms of number of companies on NASDAQ. There are 8 Israeli startups on the red herring list of 100 most promising startups in Europe. 12 Israeli tech companies are on Gartner's list of cool vendors in 2010. And we also have 2 of our Android Challenge winners. And those are just some of the many things that form the backdrop of why Israel has been a really great place for Google to be and a really wonderful place for technology overall in terms of the entrepreneurialism that happens here. In terms of our offices, we have 2 offices here in Israel, one in Tel Aviv and one in Haifa, and they have been contributing to many of our core products, including search in the form of Google Suggest and spelling. They've also have developed our Insights for Search and our Google Trends products. And they've also helped build the YouTube contest platform as well as the annotations platform. Those are just some of the projects that they host. And we're really excited to be expanding here in Israel, both in terms of number as well as in terms of responsibility and contribution to the overall Google product suite. In terms of building our products, one of the things that we really focus on are our users. We really think that our users are key to helping us develop great products. And in the case of Chrome, we really found that the overall user experience of the web for browsing wasn't as good as it could have been, and we really wanted to make it much more streamlined, much faster. And it's those kinds of insights that come from our users. They're user-driven. We build our products focused on meeting those core needs, and that's one of the things that's really helped Google innovate. As we've innovated, we've worked to move the web forward, and I think there's a couple of different products that I wanted to highlight here. We're missing one of the products there in the upper left-hand corner, which what you should see there is Google Translate. So I thought I would highlight a few efforts that we've been working on to help move the web forward in terms of making the web reach more people. Translate is something that's really important. It's an incredibly fast-growing product. Over the past year, it's the fastest-growing product at Google. We have more than 50 different languages, and we can translate from any of those 50 languages into any of the other 50 languages. It's done through machine translation, and we've constantly been entering our translation software into different competitions. We have some of the most accurate and precise software in the world, as proven through those different contests. And it's just a really amazing tool that's ultimately helping people find what they're looking for, regardless of what language it's written in, communicate in terms of, regardless of what language the other person communicates in. It's a really amazing tool that's helping to connect the world. Another one of the projects we've been embarking on that really helps bring the internet to more people is our internet bus, and that's you can see in the upper right-hand corner here on the slide. We actually have an internet bus. It runs in India, and we've been taking it through both the cities of India as well as through rural India. And we've had almost 1 million users go through the bus. The bus has complete internet connectivity, and we've been helping people learn how to use the web, how to use Google in part, but also just how to use the web overall to really try and increase the reach of the internet as well as the awareness of the internet. In our lower left-hand corner, you can see this is our logo for our Google Fiber project. This is our Think Big with a Gig project, where we are now working on bringing internet, ultra-high-speed internet, gigabit per second internet, to different communities that don't have great internet speeds. For most people, a gigabit per second is about 100 times faster than what they currently have access to. And you think about how will the web move forward if it got to be 100 times faster? What does it feel like if the web actually feels almost preloaded? When you move to the next page, you don't need to wait for it to load. It's just there. One of the things we've really focused on a lot at Google is trying to make the web really fast and really accessible for people. That helps Google overall because it builds the web as a platform and helps the web be used that much more, which of course increases the amount of search. But we also think it's a great thing that happens for the web overall in terms of openness and in terms of the development platform that's being made available to all of our users, in particular our developers. And then the last project I want to highlight, of course, is the reason you're all here today, which is Google Chrome. Google Chrome is an incredibly important product for us. It's focused on speed and a streamlined browsing experience and really just making the web that much more fun and fast to use. And we're really excited about it today because it's had an amazing amount of growth. Oh, there's Google Translate. A little build. Okay, so overall, Google Chrome has had some really amazing milestones over the past even just few weeks. Many of you may have seen here in Israel, The Marker recently published a study showing that Firefox and Google Chrome now have 25% market share, which is a big milestone. We know there's still further to go, but by having browsers have that large, many different browsers having a large share of the market, means that ultimately the open standards on which the web is built will be better adhered to. It'll be a better browsing and developing experience for everyone. We're also really excited to see that in some studies, Google Chrome has had as much as 12% market share. So again, there's a lot further to go, but if you think about Chrome being not even 2 years old, it's a huge move forward in terms of the contribution that is made to the web and to the overall user experience of it. So we're really, really excited to be here today to welcome all of you to talk about one of our core products and really think about what are some of the great ideas. If the web was really fast, if it was even more available and more accessible, what should Chrome become next? What interesting things could be built on Chrome? What should be built on HTML5? What are some of the assumptions that should be made about those platforms? We think the dialogue that we'll have with all of you over the next day to really understand how Chrome should evolve is one of the most exciting parts of the overall DevFest. And with that, I get to introduce Brian Rakowski. And Brian is someone who is really special. I started off my talk talking about the Associate Product Manager program. Brian was actually the first Associate Product Manager that we hired at Google. He's with us now as one of the chaperones, one of the adults on the trip. He's been here at Google now for 8 years next month. And it's little known, but Brian actually has been one of the pivotal forces behind 2 of the most successful products at Google and really overall on the web. When Brian started at Google, he joined a 7-person team and became the first product manager on Gmail. How many people here use Gmail? and he saw that project as the sole product manager and primary product manager through its launch. And then after the success of Gmail, Brian then became one of the founding members of the Chrome team. And today he's the director of product management on Chrome. And I can't think of anyone better to talk to all of you about Google Chrome and where it's headed next. So with that, Brian.
Well, thank you, Marissa, and thanks to everyone who's here today. It's been an amazing experience being here in Israel, and I can't say how excited I am to see all of you here. It's a bigger room than I expected, so I'll admit that I'm a little nervous. But our time here in Israel has been amazing. Yesterday we spent some time hiking out Masada. We floated in the Dead Sea. We wandered around Jerusalem, and I have to say that this is one of the most amazing places in terms of the culture and history that I've seen, but also in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit and the technical innovation here in the area. So I couldn't be more excited to have an excuse to come talk about Chrome to such an interesting group and in such an interesting place. So so let's talk about Chrome a little bit. Chrome is one of the best. The Chrome team is one of the best teams I've ever had the privilege of working with. They're amazing in terms of their ability to execute and just the raw intellectual horsepower and engineering capabilities that they have as a team. We're already almost on our 6th major release, which is very amazing. And we all know that version numbers don't really mean anything, but it is an indicator that the team has been able to move really quickly and execute amazingly well. So we couldn't be happier about that either. There are 2 big things that we set out to do with Chrome. The first thing was to build a really good user experience, and the response we've got from users has been amazingly positive. The other thing we wanted to do is build a platform for developers like you to build really cool applications, and we've made some really good progress on that. We have a lot more to do, but we're really happy with what we've been able to do so far. Now, it isn't just the Chrome team that's been doing a lot of good stuff in the browser space for the last couple of years. We've also seen remarkable progress from the other browsers in the space. So Opera has done some really remarkable stuff with respect to JavaScript speed. They're keeping us honest and pushing the envelope in terms of what we see with the V8 engine. IE has been doing a great job catching up with standards, and also GPU acceleration in the render is pretty amazing. And then Firefox and Safari have done a great job of pushing standards and pushing new capabilities into the browser. And we've loved working with them, and we continue to do that. So I just wanted to give a little hat tip to all the other browsers out there. But as you know, I'm going to mostly talk about Chrome. And I'm hoping that I won't tell you too many things that you already know. I'll first talk about some of the things we've done in the last couple of years, but then I'll talk about some of the lessons we've learned through our 2 years since launch and our 2 years of development before we launched Chrome. So in the last 2 years, we've added a whole bunch of features. I won't go through all of them, but as I said, the team has executed remarkably well. We've finally got Mac and Linux out there as full-fledged platforms, fully supported, and we're now developing features for all of them in concert. So that's fantastic. Themes and extensions, the response to extensions has been amazing. There's thousands of extensions in the gallery. There's a couple of World Cup extensions and themes out there that have been particularly popular right now. And then there's a whole host of other features that we'll talk about as we go through some of the lessons that we've learned in developing Chrome. Now the other area is platform capabilities. I hesitate to use the word HTML5 because I don't even know what that means anymore. But we've added a whole bunch of capabilities recently to the platform to make it possible for developers like you to build really great experiences on the web. And the goal of our team is to make it possible for there should never be something that you can do in a traditional installed desktop application that you can't do in the browser. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting a lot closer. Now I don't want you to think with all these features and capabilities we've added that we've lost sight of our vision and our focus on speed. The focus for Chrome will always be speed. And there's a lot of work to do there. There's always more things to do, but as you can see, since launch, the V8 team has done an amazing job of continuing to improve JavaScript execution speed. On the SunSpider benchmark, we're now 3 times faster than we were when we first launched our initial beta, 2 times faster on the V8 benchmark suite, and that has completely shocked me. I didn't think it would be possible to achieve any more speed after that first amazing drop of the V8 project that the little team in Aarhus delivered to us. So we've been super pleased there. I think there's a lot more to come. The V8 team has a lot of tricks up their sleeve, so we're hoping for some more pleasant surprises in the next few releases. Now, all of this would be great, but it wouldn't mean anything if we didn't have a great user response from it. And we're very happy to see that users have been downloading Chrome like crazy. The product has been growing at an alarming rate. We've got over 70 million regular users of Chrome, and that's a number that we're pretty proud of. It's really hard to get people to install a new browser. It's really hard because people don't really know what a browser is in a lot of parts of the world. Israel is a little bit unique, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but market share has taken off. We're seeing somewhere between 5% market share globally, and in Israel, the users seem to be a little bit more enlightened, and we're seeing something about 12%. Which is truly remarkable and something we'd love to see. So with that, the team here did a completely unscientific study. We went into the streets and interviewed some people about what they think about browsers. And I'd like to show a little video of the work that they did, just to give a sense of how people in Israel think about browsers.
אני טלי ממרכז הפיתוח של גוגל ישראל. יצאתי לברר מה אנשים יודעים על דפדפנים ועל אינטרנט. מה זה דפדפן?
דפדפן? זה משהו באינטרנט.
את באמת שואלת, זה אותו יחידה שבה אתה מדפדף מדף לדף.
אתם יודעות להגיד לי מה זה דפדפן?
זה תמיד כשאני נתקעת הוא מגיע.
שאת רושמת מילת חיפוש, וזה מוצא לך את כל האתרים עם המילה הזאת.
זה המנוע חיפוש שאיתו אני מוצא מה שאני רוצה.
מה זה? תסביר לו, שתסביר אם זה יותר טוב אז אני...
תוכנה או איזשהו פיצ'ר שמאפשר לעבור בין עמוד לעמוד באינטרנט.
וואו. מבלבלת אותי.
איזה דפדפנים אתה מכיר?
כרום, פיירפוקס, אינטרנט אקספלורר, ספארי.
באיזה דפדפן אתה משתמש?
פיירפוקס.
כרום. פיירפוקס בעיקר. אקספלורר.
אקספלורר, פיירפוקס, גוגל כרום.
בכרום או בפיירפוקס ובאקספלורר שאין ברירה.
גוגל בעיקר.
אקספלורר, כרום וספארי.
אני מכור למכשיר שלי, לאייפון.
מה מעצבן אותך בגלישה?
מה שמעצבן אותי זה כמו שכולם, מעצבן זה הבאנרים והפרסומות והאיטיות לפעמים של אתרים.
האמת, לא נעים להגיד, אבל לפעמים יש בעיות עם הכרום. כמו עכשיו השידורים של המונדיאל לא עולים ברשות השידור, יש להם אתר, זה לא עולה בכרום, אבל בגלל רשות השידור הם פשוט לא מתקדמים מספיק. וואי, בהפסקת תוכן הם דיברו על זה, אני לא מאמין.
גוגל כרום הוא טוב, הוא מהיר, אבל הבעיה היא שהוא לא תומך בהרבה אתרים.
נגיד האתר של נתב"ג, אתמול ניסיתי להיכנס, וזה כותב דפדפן לא מתאים.
מה היית אומר למישהו שבונה היום אתרים?
נעצב את זה כמה שיותר אוניברסלי שיתאים להכל, בעיקר למק. נראה לי שהאתר טוב, הוא בנוי בצורה לוגית, כך שהוא לא תלוי מה שקורא אותו.
הייתי רוצה ש-HTML5 ייכנס, בגדול, כי זה קשור לאייפון.
שהוא יהיה נגיש לכל הדפדפנים, זה עניין של המקצועיות, לא?
שלום, אני טלי ממרכז הפיתוח.
So I thought that video was pretty insightful. It led us to some conclusions, and it caused us to ask some questions. And the team here did a little bit of slightly more scientific follow-up study where they surveyed 1,000 people and asked them what bugs them about using the internet, what bothers them. And the top answers were slow surfing, ads, and problems with website compatibility. So those didn't surprise us a ton, except for website compatibility. That's an area where it was a remarkably high response. So we decided to dig a little deeper into that question. And the interesting thing is that users don't attribute bad website compatibility to the browser. They attribute it to the site, and it causes them to have some negative perceptions of the site themselves. So this is great news for the Chrome user support team, but not so great news for your support teams. The good news is that website compatibility isn't such a hard thing to fix, and there's some good sessions here today that will help you understand how to fix some of the website compatibility problems, how to do proper user agent detection, things like that. Now with that, I wanted to spend the rest of our time talking about some of the big initiatives that we still have ongoing, some of the areas of focus for our team, and those are Chrome OS and Web Store. So the Chrome OS project is something that we announced a while back. There's an open source project ongoing where you can check in and monitor progress. We're still on track for an early release later this year, and that's very, very exciting. If you're particularly adventurous, you can go to chromium.org, check out the code, compile it, and install it on your netbook and see if you can get it to work. It's making really good progress, and couldn't be more excited about what we're doing there. The other project is the Chrome Web Store. We announced that at I/O. And the idea there is to help users discover all the great apps that have been written out there. They're really hard to find on the web. And from a developer perspective, we wanted to help you all monetize those apps. Now with that, that's a little bit of a summary of what we've been doing on Chrome. I wanted to spend some time talking about some of the lessons we've learned over the last 4 years in building Chrome. Hopefully some of them will be a little bit useful to you. Now the first lesson, I have 5 of them. I had a lot more, but I had to cut them out since we don't have that much time together. Is the best UI is no UI. It's really tempting as a developer to overthink your feature and overvalue the importance of the feature you're working on. You're always talking about, you're talking to the users who care about this feature the most, the fringe users who are obsessed with a particular feature, and you're thinking about all edge cases, and I think it causes us to overvalue how important the feature is, and that causes us to put too much UI on the feature itself. In general, I think products have too much UI. So I think that what we've learned in a couple years of developing Chrome and other products is that the only features that really get used are the ones that show up in the flow of what you're doing in the browser or in the web page or in the flow of what you're trying to accomplish. If you have a button in the toolbar or an option somewhere or a menu item, you're not going to get more than 10% of users clicking on it. So a good example of our application of this philosophy is the Translate feature that Marissa talked to. We built Translate into Google Chrome, and when you go to a web page that's not in your language, Chrome runs a little script, detects the language of the page, and decides whether that's a language you speak or not. If it's not a language that you speak, it gives you a little bar that tells you can translate the page. It's in the flow of what you're doing, it's very useful, and it turns out people use it quite a bit. It also can become the automatic choice from then on, so anytime you encounter a page in that language, it will automatically translate. And this is the kind of feature that gets used a ton. Users don't have to go out of their way. They don't have to do anything strange in settings. It just happens. The next lesson is to design for power users without confusing novices. And this is something that we held true from the very beginning of Chrome. The truth is that your power users are your most important users, and it's really important to delight them. These are the people that are going to be loyal, that are going to recommend your product to other users, and to be your best advocates in general for the product. So you want to design features that appeal to them. The other thing is, as the web becomes more immersed in our daily lives, you're designing for the future when you design for power users. The novices are becoming the power users. So an example of a feature that I think does a pretty good job of this in Chrome is tab to search. It's not a terribly discoverable feature. In fact, it's almost completely undiscoverable. But users who search a lot on the web or use the web a lot end up using a lot of search engines. They end up using Amazon for searching for products and images for searching for images, lots of specialized search engines. And the way the feature works is it notices that there are search engines on the web that you use. And when you start to type the URL of one of these pages, there's a little tip that pops up that says you can hit tab to search. If you hit tab, you can search directly on that site without having to navigate to it first. So it saves a lot of time for power users. It's the kind of feature that our power users have been thrilled with, although most of the novices don't get it. But it also doesn't get in their way. So it's been a great success from that perspective. Now the third lesson is talk less, try more. And what I mean by this is that it's very easy to fall into the trap, especially when you're developing a feature that you don't quite understand well or you're trying to be a little bit innovative, and you end up just endlessly debating the pros and cons of the feature, trying to understand how it should work, how it should look, what you should include, and you end up over-speccing the feature, over-debating it. You get a little bit of paralysis by analysis, and in the end, you end up hypothesizing beyond your understanding for what the feature can do. We've done this a bunch, and the example that I'm going to talk about is extensions. So when we were building extensions for Chrome, we weren't sure what surface we should expose to the extensions themselves, how they should show up in the UI of Chrome. A lot of extensions use toolbars, so we talked a lot about whether we should allow some sort of a tool strip to show up somewhere in the Chrome at the top, or on the side, or at the bottom. Lots of pros and cons. And after tons of debate, probably months of debate, we ended up with this idea that we put a strip, and you can see that up in the top corner at the bottom of the page. So when you install your first extension, you get a bar across it with a strip, and the way to save space is all the strips would add up. Immediately after we implemented it, it was obvious that we hated it. We'd been debating it for months and months, but as soon as we tried it, it was pretty clearly horrible. So we went back to the drawing board and decided to try a whole bunch of different things. And immediately, once we tried the current approach, which is browser actions and page actions would show up in the top tool strip in the URL bar, it was clear that this was much more in line with the aesthetic of Chrome and the idea that you shouldn't have too much UI and you shouldn't have to give up a whole strip of UI just for one feature. So that's been much more successful, and we wouldn't have found it if we just would have kept talking about it. In fact, we would have ended up with something completely suboptimal, to say the least. Fourth lesson is good enough isn't good enough. One of the conclusions that we've come to is that polish is really important. Putting in features that aren't quite good enough, or you think are good enough but have a few bugs that you think you'll fix in the future, leads to a lot of bad things. Users end up feeling that your product is rough around the edges and a little bit crufty. And from a development perspective, you end up with a feature set or a somewhat incomplete feature with bugs that you think you're going to fix in the future release, but the reality is there's never time to fix the bugs. There's always something more important. So you end up with a couple bugs that never quite go away. You end up with hacks in the code base and hacks on top of hacks, and then you end up with a code base that's a little bit hard to maintain. And then it becomes harder and harder to maintain. You become afraid to make changes to the code because there are strange ways that things are done. And it leads to slower and slower iterations and more fear of implementing new features. So the solution we've come up in Chrome after a few false starts is to use the dev, beta, and stable channels in concert with flags. And you can do this in websites too with something like a labs approach that we've tried on Google before and on Gmail and some other products as well. So in Chrome, you can see autofill here was behind a flag for a while, and it's available on the dev channel today, but on the beta, I believe it's still behind a flag. And the flag enables us to try things out, like I was talking about previously, try it rather than talking about it. So we can try it, we can point people who are particularly excited about the feature at the flag, tell them to enable it, but it doesn't get in the way of all the other users. It doesn't inflict these half-baked feature ideas on your entire user audience. The other example is vertical tabs, and this is a little bit different. Autofill is something we've been working on for several releases. We had to make tough decisions to not release it, even though it would have made a lot of users quite happy to play with it and have the functionality, although limited, in the full release. Vertical tabs is something we've been experimenting with, where we show tabs in a vertical strip along the left side rather than along the top. And this one's completely experimental, may never see the light of day, but it allows us to try things out with the same command line flag capability. Now, the last lesson is that speed is always the best feature. In the best case, you're going to be developing a feature that 80% of your user base will use. In the worst case, in the most common cases, you're actually developing for many fewer users when you build a new feature. And there's nothing sadder than spending lots of development time on a feature that 1% of your user base uses. You could have been doing something else at that time. You now have another feature to maintain. You now have a larger testing matrix, and it's a little bit of a sad situation. On the other hand, building a feature, making Chrome faster, making your product faster, making your feature faster, benefits everybody. It benefits the most advanced users as well as the complete noobs. So it's generally the best use of your time. There's always stuff to do. You can improve application responsiveness. You can improve startup time. And every millisecond tends to make a big difference in terms of product usage. So those are 5 lessons that we've learned. I'll just recap them quickly. And the way to think about them, keep your UI light. Make sure to please your heaviest users. Bias towards prototyping over discussion. Keep your quality bar high, and always focus on speed. So those are the 5 things we've learned. There are many more lessons you can learn from the talks today. I think there's a whole range of great talks from some of the experts on Chrome. So thank you so much for coming today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the talks today.